And look who's back. Penelope. You decided to get up and come back. Yeah, sweetie, you're getting hungry. All right, so 14 points for the path to innovation and quality. And guess who's coming? Dr. Deming. So get ready. We're going to be going knee-deep into Deming's philosophy and ideas here pretty quickly. The 14 points for the path to innovation and quality. Let's check this out. The Union of Japanese Scientists and Engineers, the JUSE, created a prize to commemorate Dr. Deming's contribution and friendship to promote the continued development of quality control in Japan. Deming went to Japan at General MacArthur's behest 1946-1947 to help with the rebuilding of Japan. There is an annual prize given to the most innovative Japanese businesses, right, to this day, called the Deming Award. So the prize was established in 1950 and awards are still given each year. And this is what it looks like. So this is the annual Deming Award. Penelope is now pulling down my pants. Fortunately, the camera doesn't go that low, or we would be creating maybe a different kind of video here. So let's not do that. So in the next set of lectures, we're going to be talking about Deming's profound knowledge applied. But that's just a taste of it. That's where we're going. And this is why I feel so strongly about this, and this is why we're using the Walton book. Let's talk a little bit about organizational climate. What do we know? Well, to what extent is challenge appropriate within an organizational climate? To what extent is risk-taking supported? To what extent are opportunities afforded? Do you have a way to make suggestions? Do you have people who will hear out your suggestions and allow you to attempt to implement perhaps your suggestions in a systematic way, right? To what extent is time available in the organization? And in our instructors meetings, we had one yesterday. I think one of the things that was most fascinating about the challenge to many of the instructors, they want to do such a good job for you, and they want to be so creative, and they want to have just kind of this tight presentation. But most of us really have our backs against the wall time-wise, and we're making compromises on the basis of limited time as a resource, right? Not desire, not motivation, and not even necessarily money, but time seems to be a big sticking point, a big obstacle for many of us. So, to what extent does an organization, the organizational climate, support personal initiative? To what extent is the organization willing to provide resources to make things happen, right? Does this organization support new ideas, right? And you might want to keep these in your back pocket, because when you're thinking about committing to an organization for an extended period of time, what's important to you, and does this organization actually offer it? You know, again, your fit to the organization. And notice this is outside maybe of the conversation of values. It's related to it, but not directly. Openness in the organization, does it even exist? Trust, and how is that handled within an organization? Do organizations allow for a certain level of playfulness and humor? And notice that a lot of tech organizations in Silicon Valley kind of really held themselves up as totally down with playfulness and humor. But I think what we're going to see, and what we've begun to see, and we'll see over the next 10 years, hey sweetie, is that a lot of these organizations, as they get bigger and bigger and bigger, are going to lose their ability for fun and playfulness and flexibility and openness. Right? I think in another 10 years we're going to see a lot of tech companies make profound transitions, and we'll see some go belly up. You know, maybe working at Facebook or Google isn't all it was cut out to be. Once they get too big and they get too cumbersome, and management becomes more dictatorial under those circumstances, right? So, to what extent does permissiveness exist or not? One of the things I love about teaching, right, is that, you know, they say, we want you to teach this course, we want you to teach organizational psychology. And then it's really left up to me how that will occur, right? And that's a tremendous level of permissiveness. But there's got to be accountability as well. Discussion, debate. Does this happen in an organization or not? And notice that all of those tie to perhaps the creative potential of an organization. Now, do teams facilitate creativity? Well, experts are needed on teams, expertise can lead to inflexibility. And this is really kind of a strange relationship to creativity. Expertise might narrow my vision, but a certain level of expertise is necessary to be creative in a field, right? Novices can be of benefit, right, because they increase openness to new ideas or synthesis of existing ideas. A novice might ask what appears to be a stupid question, well, why is that, or why do we do it that way? And it forces people to reflect on that. So oftentimes, if you want a team that's going to generate creative output, get your experts on there that know the field, but maybe a novice or two that shake things up might be kind of an ideal combination. But unfortunately, teams can add to one's perception of risk, when you're putting out in front of your team members. So there's always pros and cons, and this is why I focus on pros and cons to this great extent, because we need to think critically about this. Teams can also be subject to social loafing, and you guys have told me that again and again and again. Teams can foster conformity pressures, a la Ash, that people may not want to dissent on the team because of the conformity pressure and or kind of groupthink pressures. Now, one question, and I don't know that there's an answer to this, but I used to teach psychic creativity years ago here at Ohio State. I haven't for a long time. There's other things to do. So do teams diminish creativity via compromise? And then, when we start compromising on decisions, is it kind of pulling the creative aspects out of those decisions, making it more palatable to a wider audience? And I think that would be an interesting research question. I'm not sure essentially how it would play out or how one would design the studies. Team tools, brainstorming. Okay, we've already talked about brainstorming. Right, and so these are just some more comments that might lead to greater creativity or diminish it. I don't know. And the psychic costs present threat to free exchange of ideas is one aspect of brainstorming. Right. So psychic costs. Well, maybe I'm worried about managing my impression, right, or creating a good impression. To the expense of generating ideas or putting it out there or being wacky or doing crazy things, right? Maybe accepting negative reactions then kind of diminishes my desire to perform or lets me inhibit some of my initial responses and start modifying those responses in a way that make them less susceptible to painful negative reactions. Maybe there's competition or social comparison, so we begin to compete within the team to a greater extent, or make social comparisons that maybe make one feel like a failure. Oh my God, he always has the good ideas, and I can't seem to think of anything, right? And then it diminishes my self-efficacy. So these are a lot of psychic processes that might be activated within the team. Maybe we become ostracized. That is, the team members just no longer talk to us. Because we've become some kind of strange outlier or strange ranger on the team, if you will. Is brainstorming by virtual teams a remedy? I don't know. And we might have something to say about that after this class. A couple other ideas about leadership and creativity. Transactional leadership focuses on accomplishments and rewards for those accomplishments. It's kind of an exchange paradigm. So if I'm a transactional leader, hey, I will pay you, we will engage in this transaction, or I will compliment you, I will compensate you, whatever, based on what you've produced, right? So transformational, that's transactional leadership. Transformational leadership focuses on encouragement of growth and innovation. Me personally, I would prefer to be in a transformational leadership position. I want people who are going to give me the opportunity to grow, to do new things, and to innovate, right? Other people like it kind of more straight up, tit for tat, which would be representative of the transactional leadership paradigm. At the heart of leadership is vision, and this is why our first assignment was about vision, because that's what's all important for effective leadership, right? But how does vision affect creativity? And when you're creating a vision for an organization, or you're choosing an organization based on its vision conformance to your needs, let's say, and you need to be creative, that is kind of one of your things, to what extent might this vision support that or inhibit it, right? So I'm hoping that we're able, once we finish this course, to understand a little more about the choices we make of the organizations in which we want to participate. Now I want to introduce you to this guy named Graham Wallace, right? And Graham Wallace wrote the book Art of Thought, and I'm still trying to read this book. It's a pretty tough read, and again, time is of the essence necessarily, so it's not on my priority for reading. But Graham Wallace, way back 1926, what does it take to be creative? And he says, preparation, incubation, illumination, and implementation, right? So let's define those. Preparation begins with a basic knowledge, both tacit and explicit, it was described. And this is where the expertise comes in. A lot of times when I was in graduate school, I said, oh my God, why do we have to read every freaking study in social psychology like that was ever written? And it wasn't quite that bad. But the deal is, we want you to become an expert in social psychology, because once you're an expert, you'll know what's been done, but you'll know what hasn't been done. And what hasn't been done then represents your opportunity space, your playground to be creative, to create new studies, new ideas, new theory. So you got to have a certain level of expertise, right? And that's the preparation. I have to understand. But then you have to concentrate. You have to focus on the problem or the opportunity, right? So you combine those, right? That's the preparation phase, right? And then incubation. What's incubation? Don't think about it. Put it out of your mind. You put it out of your conscious mind, but your non-conscious is going to be chugging away. It's going to be processing it outside your awareness. The non-conscious mind is probably the best thing ever going, right? Because it continues to process, it recombines, it puts random elements together, and then when the non-conscious says, hey, you know what? This looks like this might be a good idea, this might be a creative solution, and then it pushes. That's the illumination. The light bulb goes on over the head, right, Penelope? And associations are made available to the conscious mind. So the non-conscious does its work, and then it says, I think I got something for you. It pushes up to the conscious mind, and the conscious mind goes, wow, that might be pretty good. I don't know. Let's see. And that's the verification. So now we reflect on the idea, kind of play with it. We might develop tests for it, right? We might try it, modify it. But notice, procrastination kills this process. If you expect to procrastinate and be creative, the two are in no way compatible. You dig? Because this takes time, and that incubation step takes its own time. You don't get to speed that up, right? So the incubation time, if you want to be creative, you better start early and have time to allow your non-conscious to plug away at it. Okay? So suggestions for improving employee creativity. Hey, develop an environment that supports creative behavior, and we've talked about some potential components for that. Encourage employees to be more open to new ideas and experiences. Okay? Create the climate for that. One of the things that's so important is Deming said drive out fear. And if you drive out fear, then people will try new things. But if people in your organization are afraid, they're going to stick to the safe, narrow path, and you're not going to get creativity. Keep in mind that people use different strategies to foster their creativity. Some people need to walk. Albert Einstein was a big walker. He would walk, right? And this is where he came up with a lot of solutions. I've read about a lot of existential philosophers who kind of did the same thing. Walking was their deal. It seems to be very good for some people. Some of my best ideas come in the shower. I don't know why, but I get into the shower and all of a sudden, bang, it pops to mind, right? So what does that mean in an organization? If you want creative output from me in the office building, then there better be a shower in there, I guess. Or I'm allowed to go home and shower and then bring my idea back to the office, right? Provide employees with stimulating work that creates a sense of personal growth. And Deming's a big one on this. I'm a big one on this. That's one of the greatest gifts you can give to people as leaders. And I expect you guys to value your people, right? Allow employees to have fun and play around. And we see that in a lot of the tech industries in the Silicon Valley. Okay, what else? Encourage an open environment that's free of defensive behavior. We don't need that. Competition really doesn't help in this regard. Treat errors and mistakes as opportunities for learning, not reasons for dismissal. Let employees occasionally try their pet ideas and provide a margin of error, right? And say, okay, so what does the success look like? And if it's a partial success, let's call it a partial success and decide what to do from there. but give people their reins, so to speak. You know, when you're talking about horses, often they say give them their head. That is, don't be pulling on the reins so tightly that the horse is constrained. Allow the horse some freedom to turn its head, choose its own path to a certain extent, right? I learned that in Texas. I got to ride some pinto ponies in Texas. We actually rounded up some cows. I spent 3 weeks at a ranch in Texas, a relative's ranch. And there was a point where we had to round up cows, and some cows got away. And I remember these little pinto ponies were so agile, and they would jump over the little gullies, etc. And I never thought I could ride a horse like that. But once I just let the horse it's like, hey, horse, we're going over that way, and we're going to do this kind of thing. But you get there, you choose your own path, and it became a very interesting relationship with the horse, because the horse had its head, and it was making the minute decisions, and I was kind of guiding the overall process. And I think it's a good metaphor. That was a great time for me. I think I was about 14 on that trip, and man, that was a real eye-opener to how different people live, being a city boy all my life, right? Okay. Drive out fear. Deming, say it again. Reward creative behavior and make that part of the process. And you know, some of the end slides that I've been using in this particular set of lectures, I rebuilt a porch, and I did it with my buddy Wilson's help. He's one of the neighbors I often work with. And you know, I envisioned the porch. I tore down the old porch, and then we rebuilt it. And this is what it ended up looking like. And I thought it came out pretty well, right? But it started with a vision. I had an idea in mind of what it would look like. And then we got down to the details and handled the details in an appropriate fashion. And then you see an element of success. I can see some severe errors in the porch as it was built, but I will file that away and learn from those. And creative endeavors when it comes to home kind of stuff will probably improve in the long term. And that's what it is. It's continuous improvement. And what do you think, Penelope? Should we call it good? Have we tortured our poor friends enough? Let's say goodbye, and we're going to be talking seriously about Deming here in the next couple ones. And so best of luck with what you're doing, and take care of you guys. Bye.